Today we are looking at the qualities of Ilford Pan F 50 speed film.
Welcome to the Naked Photographer, where I'll be exposing myself. No, I won't. That sounded better in my head.
This is going to be a comparison between Kodak Tri-X 400 and Pan F 50 from Ilford. I know that doesn't seem like a fair comparison, but I am doing a series of film comparisons that look at a gold standard. In this case, Kodak Tri-X. That way we can see how things differ. Now, the setup, in case you've not seen this before, I'm going to be taking the same shot with both films. I'm going to be developing both films in stock D76 from Kodak, and I'm going to be using the recommended published times from the manufacturer. What we're going to look at is, does Pan F reproduce colors to the same shades of gray as Kodak Tri-X? We're also going to look at, does it have just as much pronounced grain? Is it smoother grained? It should be, but is it? And we're going to expose it to a step tablet to see if we're truly getting, 1, 2, 3 stops less film speed than Kodak Tri-X. I don't know, we'll see. Finally, we're going to print both to 11x14. We're going to see what kind of differences we get in the print. I'm choosing 11x14 because I'm shooting 35mm film, and 11x14 is kind of maxing out the size before you start getting into like really mushy results from making it too big at a standard viewing distance. So we'll see how that turns out. So unless I'm forgetting anything, let's go ahead and start shooting a little bit of film, develop it, print it, and take a look at what they look like. Now that we've seen the differences on film in terms of the sensitometer and step wedge, here are actual prints. So just like before, I've got my Tri-X and the other one, they are 11x14 in size, so that we can kind of max out what resolution and whatnot we can get from a 35mm frame. So we're looking at a 9 to 10 time enlargement. And let's start by talking about spectral response. So I've got my gray card, which is what was used in the photographs. This is the Kodak Gray Card Plus, so it's got our color patches similar to a color checker. And just as before, the Tri-X rendered all of these virtually identically. It rendered all of these virtually identically, but lighter. And then we come over here to Pan F. So Pan F has rendered these identically. I mean, they actually even look exactly like what I got from Tri-X in terms of response. These, on the other hand, are very different. We didn't see this with the other films that we compared. What we have is clearly darker at the top, and we do have a little bit darker at the top over here, but these three, the other three, rendered differently. This is, these two, which would be green and blue, have rendered lighter than red and the dark flesh tone. Why? I don't know. Background, neutral gray render the same. So then we start to get into our fine detail. So let's zoom in a little bit and look at our differences there. So here with our Tri-X, as I've said before, in the other comparisons I've done, we've got pretty good detail rendition through this portion. Detail through here is good. You don't notice any particular grain at this point, but when we get to our smooth tonalities, we definitely see pronounced grain. Not like golf ball crazy looking grain, but I mean, it's there, you see it. So here in Pan F, we've got our very fine detail. We've got a little bit more definition from that fine detail in the fine wrinkles of my skin. Just like we saw with FP4 previously, the fine hairs are rendered a little bit thinner, a little finer, and so that detail really sort of comes out a little bit more. Let me lower this so you can see it a little clearer. What I'm talking about. So this portion comes out a little finer than the Tri-X. The biggest difference is our smooth tonality here. So we get this portion of tonality much smoother than the Tri-X for the same thing. Pan F is a 50 ISO film, so it's even smoother now than the FP4 125 film. So very smooth gradation. The grain it's there, but far less apparent. When we look at smoother tones, such as in the earlobe and things like that, right along the bridge of the nose, detail is a little smoother in that tonality. Everything else is rendered pretty much the same. As far as everything else goes, I mean, exposure is box speed. Again, it comes out with virtually the exact same amount of shadow density. That's good. The contrast allowed me to make the print at a 3 filter identical to the print of the Tri-X, which is also a 3 filter. So the density and contrast are identical. So you can manipulate that when you develop your film. You can also manipulate that at the print stage. What we're looking at is other things being equal, such as developer for the film and so forth. Are we achieving box speed? Yes, we are. And then, are we rendering tones the same based on color? Yes, we are, with the exception of the red, just slightly less exposed. And then, how is the appearance of grain? Pan F, much smoother grain, as we would expect from a 50 speed film. So, if you are looking for a very smooth, fine-grained film, without using a fine-grained developer, which can create a mushy look, Pan F looks really good. It's nice and sharp, it's full box speed, and it has a very smooth, creamy grain texture. So if you need something smooth, Pan F is a good choice. Unfortunately, it's only available in 35mm and medium format. So someone like me, who shoots mostly large format, would not necessarily be a good choice. Well, it's not a choice. I don't have that as an option. But if I'm shooting something like that, FP4 would be perfectly fine. It gives me an extra stop and a touch, a stop and a third of speed. And at that size negative, 4x5 or larger, the grain structure is virtually invisible anyway. I mean, this is 9 times larger than the negative, and the grain is nice and smooth. Large format, a 4x5 negative, is probably going to be printed at like a 16x20 inch size, which is only 4 times the magnification. So you would probably have even finer grain appearance, even though it's a slightly larger grain film. Potatoes and potatoes. So in this case, comparison, just to to get that idea of what qualities does Pan F have. Exact same qualities as the other black and white films we looked at, with the exception of smoother, smaller grain. Other than that, no difference. So argue about that as you would. In the meantime, please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.